We're talking to Michael Bodey of The Australian, author of Broadcast Wars, which is a pretty good summary of the last decade or so of Australian television. So, Michael, what do you think it is about the TV industry that brings out the big characters?
Well, we're Australian, for a start. We're all very big characters here. Looking at the book, there's this weird sort of movement of all these TV people from Perth. Going way back. So you've got the proprietors like Kerry Stokes and Alan Bond and people like that, but you've also got a lot of the executives now who like Tim Warner and Michael Healy and even David Mott, who've all sort of grown up in Perth and got their beginnings there. And Perth, I don't want to be too disparaging, but it is a Wild West frontier even for Australians, and I think there's something to that. But there's also the whole idea that a lot of people in TV are mirror images of their proprietors, and the proprietors in TV have been huge. Packer, Stokes, even people like McAlpine on the second level, they're big people. So there's that sort of mirror image thing in TV as well. And of course it's a personality driven industry, so there has to be big personalities at the top to cope with the little personalities on TV.
Well, I suppose that's the question. Do you think they do need to be big personalities to run a successful network?
It's a good question. I'm not sure they need to be, because you look in the States and the UK, they're not big and they're almost demure. Well, they're demure compared to us. And our UK and American compatriots, they look at the Australian TV industry literally as a frontier. Like the Yanks just think it's hilarious, and the Brits are bemused by us. And they're sort of also, they always struggle to work out why the executives in Australia a part of the story, whereas they're not in the States or the UK.
One of the things we've seen over the years is, to a certain extent, it relies on overseas content for whether a network succeeds or fails. In the end, does it come down to luck, do you think?
If you go back to 2000, the top shows of the year, they were all American. They were procedurals or Friends or other ropey Warner Brothers sitcoms. Today, the top 10 will literally be all Australian stuff this year. And I'm not sure that it is luck. There was this myth that it was luck, that the US output deals were the things that made Channel 9 so good with Warner Brothers and their Regency deal for CSI. And there's some element of luck in that Seven kept their Disney ABC deal in 2004. They wanted to get rid of it, and lo and behold, the next year it gives them Desperate, Greys and Lost. But those shows would be worth nothing if you didn't have the other shows around them or the management skill to turn them into hits. And Seven, at that time, things coalesced. So it wasn't just luck. It was a lot of good management as well.
What for you have been, in the 10 years you've been writing about here, the most extraordinary TV moments?
There's been stacks. I suppose the big one is the fact, around 2005, 2006, you were reporting too that the internet was going to gobble everything up. And if you think back to then, it's not that long ago where actors thought they were going to be out of jobs because reality TV was swamping them. Scriptwriters thought they'd be out of jobs. And TV was going, all that content's going to come from the internet, or we're going to be gobbled up by the internet. And everyone was going, we're going to create user-generated stuff. The public's going to make this programming for us, and we'll air it. And I think that's sort of going from that point of sheer panic in 05 to 07 to a point now where TV is actually quite resilient. Looks as though for the next 2 years it's going to have a growing chunk of the advertising dollar. I think that movement over that time and the programming trends underneath has been extraordinary, and the way that Australians have turned back on to Australian TV, and the broadcasters are making big event TV for Australian audiences.
And then looking in the crystal ball, maybe take it network by network, perhaps starting off with 10.
One of the points in the book is James Warburton has this history of coming in at companies when they're on death's door, essentially, or the worst companies on the planet. Like he joined Hyundai when they were down, Universal McCann, and now he's walking into 10, which even since his appointment has gone backwards. So the only way is up for 10. And I think Warburton's got he's helped Seven, you talk about luck. Seven capitalised through their advertising strategies and marketing and sponsorship strategies. He's got his fingerprints all over that. So I think he'll be good for 10. Whether they've got the programming, look, they'll probably take the 7 strategy of building program by program. And I think one thing in the book, the myth that I want to explode, is that you can just turn a TV network around on 1 or 2 shows. You can't. I mean, 7 strategy's been great, and that's why I think into next year, 7 will continue to be dominant. 9 will have its little wins, but I don't think their strategy is really it's got enough bricks to hold it up yet, and they're really banking on the London Olympics to turn things around. It'll be good for a while, but 7 will be dominant, and 10 will be the one we're all watching. We wonder what's going to happen there.
And for 7, how soon do you think before we actually do see life after Leckie?
Well, I think there'll be life with Leckie for a long time. I think he'll maintain a chairmanship of 7 West, or he'll maintain some, maybe non-executive, but in practice the executive role, I'd imagine. And but I would foresee Tim Warner taking over before the end of next year, definitely. He's over at Columbia Business School now, working on the balance sheets and profit and loss statements. I think it's going to be an interesting time for 7, but they're so well established. I don't want to insult them, but a monkey could run that company for the next 12 months, and I think they'd still win next year in ratings and revenue terms.
And for 9, we have questions over the ownership, of course. Do you think that we'll see a different kind of character under a different owner?
In a way, I think their multi-channels have been quite strong, and it still works. People still perceive it as a packer company for some reason, so I think that culture's still there. It's very much becoming a David Gingell company, though, and he's got a sort of cult there, and people love him, and I think that will definitely change. But in terms of what their message is to the general public, I still don't think they've got one. They're still sort of messing around with the star culture or the big spend culture or the big event culture, but they don't have them. So I think they've got a lot of work in the next 12 months to work out what their identity as a brand is for the Australian market, because I don't think the Australian market quite knows.
Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Tim.